Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday to everybody. Welcome to Troop Talk Live. We are so glad to have you with us today. And we're so glad to have, as you can see, we've got a full panel of special guests today. I'm going to introduce everybody here in just a second, but I want to sort of let everybody know what we're talking about today. You know, when you turn 18 years old, you are kind of considered a graduate of the Scouts BSA program. But the great thing is there are still lots of ways for you to stay involved in Scouts. There's this thing that some of you may have heard of that, you know, when folks go off to college, they might lose touch a little bit with scouting. They might lose touch with their home troop. It's busy. College is a busy time, as three of the five people on the screen can tell us about here in just a second. But we really want everybody to stay engaged. There's this thing called Scouting Alumni, and Scouting alumni are not just people my age with my color hair. Scouting alumni can be anybody who's ever been involved in scouting ever. And being involved in a scouting alumni group is a great way to stay sort of, in touch with the program. Maybe hopefully someday you'll have your own kids. You'll be a scout leader, and the cycle just continues. That's kind of the dream is how it works. But that's enough of my yap, and I want to introduce our panel today. Let's start off with Bradley, the young man in the blue shirt. Bradley, thanks for joining us today. Introduce yourself real quick to the folks watching, and tell us what you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And it's great to be with you all today. I'm Bradley Taylor, and I serve as the Alumni Communities Lead for Scouting Alumni, which is our national alumni association in Scouting America. We are truly doing a lot of exciting things to re engage our Scouting alumni. So, those currently in Scouting and those who were formerly in Scouting to bring them back to the campfire. And so, we've got a lot of exciting things to share with you, especially for those who might be headed off to college and you're not in your local area. So, how can you still stay connected with scouting? I look forward to sharing it.
Yeah, awesome. A lot of great information there. And then we've got a couple of other young folks on the call who are, I think both of these young women are headed off to college just in the next few days or so, which is super exciting. Karis, why don't we start with you? Introduce yourself real quick. And I love the uniform. What program are you representing today?
My name is Karis Hunt, and I currently serve as the National Venturing Officers Association Vice President of Communications. And through that, I work on different campaigns to get the word out there about scouting by going on podcasts like this, and also some campaigns such as recruiting or just general scouting knowledge. And yes, I do head off to college in just a few short days. I'm going all the way down to Florida from my hometown in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Well, good luck with that before you leave. We're glad that we grabbed you here for a few minutes today to talk about these kind of opportunities. And Abby, why don't you introduce yourself to the folks watching? And that looks like maybe a Sea Scout uniform. Am I right about that?
Yes, you are. So, hello guys, I'm Abby Holloman, and I currently serve as the National Bosun on the quarterdeck for Sea Scouts. The National Bosun gets to build a team, and every year we have a new term. So I work on projects like communications and keeping up with social media, programs such as new manuals and quarterdeck handbooks to help build that leadership for younger units, and then spreading events and awareness about events so people are able to attend new things that they may not have known about before. So I work a little bit of everything, and yes, this is a Sea Scout uniform. Blue is amazing. And I head off to college in a couple of days as well, except I'm going the other direction. I'm headed to Maine.
Okay, so we've got a representative from Florida and a representative from Maine. I'm glad we've got ourselves covered. Not only do we have both venturing and Sea Scouts covered, we've got the Northeast and the Southeast both covered. Very, very well done. Thank you very much. The other person joining our show today is Lana, another young person whom I've known for many, many years. Lana, it's good to see you again. Why don't you just introduce yourself to the folks and tell us about your role?
Yeah, so thanks for having me on today. So I am the National Registrar. Again, my name is Lana Curry. I'm the National Registrar for Scouting America. So I spend my days supporting all the local councils and the individual groups, such as what we're talking about today, to bypass all the hurdles and processes and requirements to get them registered in the system so that they can keep going in the program.
That is awesome. Awesome. Yeah, Lana's going to talk about kind of the technical process, right, of how you actually register once you become a scouting alumni, what your different options are and things like that. Shout out to Kat D, who's watching from, I think that's North Dakota and not Notre Dame, but we are talking, since we're talking about colleges today, I don't know. Kat, let us know. I'm just guessing that's North Dakota. I know Rusty is from New Philadelphia, Ohio, because Rusty is a loyal viewer. Good to see you guys well. Want to encourage everybody as we get into our discussion today. If you know anybody who this discussion might apply to, let's tag them in the comments and get them on board so they can come watch the show. Maybe they'll learn something today. And a reminder, once we're done today, this video will live on whatever social media channel you're watching on right now. You can always go back and watch from the beginning and catch up. You can always share the link with your friends. We'll be here for a while. So if you're not able to join us in the next 24 minutes, it's totally fine. We'll be here for you for a while. What's up, Jim? Good to see you from Alexandria, Virginia. Thank you for joining the show as well. Bradley, let's start with you. You were at, well, you may have said this. What college are you at right now?
Absolutely. I'm actually at my alma mater, which is High Point University here in Central North Carolina. And if you're in the college world, this is the back to school time, as you heard. And so we are on the countdown to our students returning here in just 2 days. So I'm working both as a college student affairs professional and, of course, wearing my scouting alumni hat.
Yes. Awesome. Yeah, I imagine it's kind of the quiet before the storm on college campuses right now, right? It's probably in a couple of days it's going to change. So good luck to you as you go through that process, Bradley. But as we get started with our discussion, Bradley, let's start us off. Tell us about scouting alumni groups in general. What are they designed to accomplish? What are they all about? You know, what's the difference between just a group of former scouts getting together and hanging out versus an official scouting alumni group, right? Because there's probably 4 or 5 people who get together, and are they a scouting alumni group if they're all in scouts? Tell us how all that works.
Absolutely. So the first thing I like to start off with is let's go ahead and do a quick definition for what is a scouting alum. A lot of us may question like, well, am I a scouting alum? And so our official definition is Scouting America defines alumni as anyone who has ever been positively impacted by scouting. So let's think about that for a second. My mom is a scouting alum because she was involved when I was in Cub Scouts. My dad's a scouting alum as an Eagle Scout and an active scouting volunteer, right? My grandparents who were involved in the scouting program are scouting alums. And so if you have ever been positively impacted by scouting, you're a scouting alum. And so that's really good to know because, like you said, sometimes some of us just, grab a cup of coffee together. We might have a little, camp out weekend. We might be, hanging out together because we all went to the same college and university. Who knows what brings us together? It could be those shared experiences in scouting, but it could also be the other things we've experienced in life. So that's how we come together. So let's actually define what you just asked, right? If 3, 4, 5 of us are hanging out, are we a scouting group? Are we a scouting alumni community? Officially, we're not. We're just a bunch of scouting alums hanging out, maybe reconnecting, remembering those great memories at summer camp, at a service project in our community. But if you do join one of our official organizations, we've got a ton of them in different areas. So we collectively call those alumni communities. You might have heard some of these terms in the past, like our national affiliate groups. A lot of those are programs that are connected to the Scouting America brand. Many of them are very familiar to you. If you've been to one of our high adventure bases, each one of those has a staff association, like the Philmont Staff Association. You might have been a Wood Badge participant, and so there's a Wood Badge alumni group. You might be in the Sea Scouts, right, in some of our different programs. So we have programs like that bring scouting alumni back to the campfire and help out and support and be ambassadors really for what they're doing. Now, that still means that we have some other groups. If you're interested in like career-based entities, we have our other section of the world that like the legal group of alumni. We have some that are interested in being first responders, so police, fire, EMS. We actually have a new one in STEM, right, that are working in STEM fields. So we have a lot of opportunities, and those are in, that's not our affiliates, that's our affinity groups. We also partner with some national organizations like the Sons of the American Revolution, Alpha Phi Omega, the Rotary International, and those are some of our civic and community partners that also have alumni groups. I'm a Rotarian, so I'm a part of the International Rotarian Fellowship. How amazing, right? And then we also have camp alumni associations. We are not formalizing those quite yet, but we have over 100 that we have found on social media platforms, whether groups, pages, etc. And their goal and vision is just to bring people back into the fold for their local camp experience, whether they were a staff member or just a participant. But there is a new one. And I'm really excited to be talking about this, especially today. And that is a new domain of our alumni communities is focused on college and universities. We are getting so many people that are going off to college and saying, guess what? I still want to be involved in scouting. But maybe, maybe I'm going from North Carolina to Florida, or maybe I'm going from California to New York. Who knows? I'm not going to be in the local community. And so we want to find a way for them to stay involved. Obviously, we want them to be able to maybe connect in their local community with a local council or unit. That would be phenomenal. Sometimes it's about giving back to the local camp, right? So we are trying to find ways to create kind of a college alumni chapter in a box, if you will. We've also got a couple of entities. I'll give a shout out to Purdue University. It's called Scouting Purdue. They are doing a great job. They started about a year ago, and they've got a really great leadership team. They're connected with their local council, and they are giving back in so many ways. And so they're probably like our poster child for our alumni groups within colleges and universities. So that's a pretty big overview. I hope I answered the question.
You did. That is great. I now have I have more questions for you now, but you did a great job answering that. Shout out to our good friend Garfield who's watching. Ben says hi to Lana. What about the rest of us, Ben? What about the rest of us? No, just kidding. Good to see Gary again from Troop 700 in Aliso Viejo, California. Hope you're having a nice, warm, relaxing summer out there. Luis says, be prepared. That's basically what we're talking about here. We're talking about be prepared, how scouting alumni can be prepared once they actually leave the program. Yeah, I got a couple more questions for you real quick, Bradley, if you don't mind. So I want to pick our expert's brain here. First of all, something you said that I think is interesting that a lot of people don't know. My son was in Cub Scouts for many, many, many years. He was in Scouts BSA for a few years before he started doing some other things. Is he a scouting alumni?
Absolutely. If someone was positively impacted by scouting, yes.
I was my son's den leader for many years. I was his Cub master. I was involved in his Scouts BSA troop. Now, am I a member? Am I a scouting alumni?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now we're getting somewhere, basically. Yes, I get it now. Okay. This is really, really great. So let's say you're a college student, for example. You've just aged out of your Scouts BSA troop.Maybe you've gone to Florida. Maybe you've gone to Maine. I feel like that the Scouts BSA program, it's such a powerful support network, right? You are surrounded by your peers, similar interests, similar values. That goes away maybe when you move away from your community. That's a part of sort of I got homesick a little bit when I went off to school. So let's say I'm a scouting alumni and I'm looking for an association or an alumni group near me. Is there anywhere I can go do that?
Absolutely. So the best resource that I can share with you all is our Scouting Alumni website. It is constantly being updated, a great resource of information. All you have to do is go to scoutingalumni.org. One of the first things you're going to see is a button that says Get Involved. And under our Get Involved, there's a way to sign up for our e-newsletter that comes out just for scouting alums. You're going to find out all about our alumni communities, local councils. I would say 95% of all of our councils across the U.S. have a local scouting alumni community or committee, and you can get involved with them. And then, of course, we also have a little bit more information about the different programs that we offer through recognitions, awards, trainings, virtual events, just like Troop Talk Live.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Christine says this is such a great idea. Connecting young adults back into scouting through college. We agree, Christine. That's why we're doing this show today. Thank you for your comment. And we posted a link to the scoutingalumni.org website. Bradley, let's say I'm a scouting alum. I'm at college. Maybe there's not an alumni group. You mentioned the Purdue group. I had the privilege of speaking to them on a call similar to this a couple of months ago. Really impressive group of folks. And, that was kind of the result of some people who looked around and said, we need to start a scouting alumni group. Can you pass along some advice for someone who might be interested in starting their own alumni group?
Absolutely. So we've got a great resource of information on our website under alumni communities. Essentially, what we do is we feel that in order to be an official alumni community, a recognized alumni community, that there's the 7 basic things that you need to do. It's good for any organization. And so we have a list of those things. You can reach out to me via our website web form and say, hey, I want to be a scouting alumni community. And we'll get in contact. We'll talk about those 7 things. So, for example, do you have a name? Do you have a logo? Is there some sort of purpose to your group, right? It's not just a group of friends getting together, but what is that shared common experience or commonality that could grow, right? We don't want to just have a group of 5 people. We really want to grow these groups and make them great resources, like you said. We also want to make sure is there some sort of way to track your membership. It doesn't mean that you are collecting dues. That is not a requirement. But it could be just a way to collect that information and then be able to communicate to your membership. So there's some 7 basic things that we ask for. And then, of course, we've got lots of other tips and suggestions for things that can even make you better and stronger as an alumni community.
Awesome. Awesome. Shout out to Dan in the comments who was mentioning an alumni community at Auburn. I'm an LSU grad. Fine. No, we'll go with War Eagle. Fine. For this, I'll make an exception. Karis is going to talk to us in just a minute about the venturing program and how young adults can serve that program. Abby's going to talk to us about Sea Scouts. But I have a question for my old friend Lana. So Lana, as we said, is the national registrar. She is the expert. I get emails still to this day from people wanting to know about how exactly to register for this position, and sometimes the system's a little bit complicated, but Lana, maybe you can explain to us the registration options for scouts heading off to college. Let's say they want to be involved in their home units or something like that. What are the options for them to stay as registered members of Scouting America?
Yeah, so they have a few different options actually. So you do have this core group of scouters, right, that want to stay with their home unit. They want to stay involved with that home unit. So once they turn 18, our system looks at them as adults. So they do need to switch over to adult positions at that point. So they can be assistant leaders, right? If they're in a troop or a pack, they can be assistant leaders up to the age of 21. For assistant leaders, they can move on up at that point, but they do need to fill out the adult criteria at that point. Another option is the college scouter reserve position. So they can go into that position as soon as they turn 18. And that's the one that goes up to 20 years old. It's still kind of considered a youth position, but it's kind of on the adult spectrum, if that makes any weird sense at all.
Yep.
And then at 21, they do become true adults. So first they need to kind of look into each one and figure out which one is the best spot for them. If their college is close enough and they have time in their schedule and they want to keep going with that pack or that troop, we encourage that. Take on those leadership roles, stay involved in your home unit. But if that's just not possible, you can look at the college scouter reserve position that lets you stay registered in scouting, lets you maintain your membership, and lets you still stay active, right? So that could be just through the Order of the Arrow. That could be through venturing or Sea Scouts, as these young ladies are gonna tell us a little bit more about.
Yep.
So those are a couple of the main options that they have. They just need to kind of look at each one and see which one's a good fit for them.
Awesome. Yeah, I think probably, correct me if I'm wrong, Lana, a lot of folks probably don't necessarily realize that you can leave your hometown, go to college, but still be a registered member of your unit through one of those positions. The College Scouter Reserve, would you mind talking a little bit about what that means and what that position involves?
Yeah, so that's a non-unit position.
Okay.
So you're not attached to one single unit,
Good,
right?
good to
It's
know.
more
Okay,
of a
great.
broad
I didn't know that.
spectrum. Yeah, it's more of a broad spectrum scouting position. So if you want to, for example, you're active in the Order of the Arrow, and you're not going to be able to stay active in your specific unit, but you want to keep participating with the OA, you can register as a College Scouter Reserve. They do have that position that is unit specific. So, if you want to stay with your unit, but not take on that leadership role because you just don't have time or whatever, that position does apply to units as well. So, I would say the main thing first is to figure out what your college life is going to look like, and see what you are going to be able to plug in.
Awesome. Great advice. Lana, I've got a couple of more questions for you, but I want to give the young folks here, not that you and I aren't young, right? I mean, we're young at heart, but I want to give the really young folks here, Abby and Karis, time to talk about their programs, the venturing program and the Sea Scouts program. Long time. I mean, these are not new programs. These have been around for many years. I think Sea Scouts might have predated venturing, but somebody can fact check me on that. I could be wrong. Abby, why don't you tell us again about Sea Scouts, your role, how you signed up, why you think other people should sign up for it?
So a little bit about Sea Scouts. Currently, I'm the National Bosun serving on the National Quarterdeck. If you guys have ever heard of the Order of the Arrow and the National Chief, it's kind of like that, but for Sea Scouts, and Venturing has one as well. They have the president, and we're a youth member that gets elected for a year, and we work on several different projects from communications, which Karis works on right now, to program and marketing and a little bit of all of it. So my job right now is to oversee that and help the youth working under me to be able to take on those projects. Like this year, we're doing NVSSA, which is National Virtual Sea Scout Academy. So that helps with advancement as well. We have a program library for Sea Scouts, but a lot of it's older. And last year we came out with a new manual. So we're updating that. So I do a lot of that. But this, for me, it started a long time ago. I lived in the mountains and I did scouting through troop. And then I moved to the coast and I heard of Sea Scouts and I thought, okay, this is going to be great. I live on the water. I get to go on boats. I knew nothing about boats. And I started looking for a unit near me and I couldn't find one. And I said, this must be wrong. We're Wilmington, North Carolina. We're right by the water. And I couldn't find one. So I found the Coast Guard Auxiliary in our area. And there was a former retired Army, my skipper. They were trying to start a Sea Scout ship. And I said, okay, that sounds great. I'll help you with that. Because when I started in Scouts, I started in 2019. I moved around a lot, so I started 2 or 3 troops. And I said a ship can't be much different. I was completely wrong. It's very different, but that's kind of what started. And when we started our ship, we got a lot of youth, but they were all older. They were 19, 20. So I got in. This was amazing. They all aged out and left, and it was just me in the ship. And I said, okay, this is not the best. What do I do? So I started working on recruiting and looking for those older scouts that had finished their Eagle Scout at a younger age. They were still 16 and 17, and they were really bored and they wanted something to do. So I just started going around to all my friends and I said, let's do this. It's boats and sailing. And then I built a ship and I fell in love. And through that process, it was hard. It took 2 or 3 years to get a good, stable ship. But I was really happy that I was able to do that with my ship. And that was the reason that I applied for a national, because I wanted to bring that to other ships and offer those resources to other kids. Because as I tried to do events, there was a lot of ships like mine that they're like, okay, where do I start? I don't know what to do. How do I get the kids? Because on the website, the paperwork is outlined, but kids and youth don't look at all that registering and starting paperwork. So I applied for national, and we have CST support leads. So this year we have kids that go out and actually talk to those ships and do what I did, but for those ships. And that's originally why I applied, and I love what I do. And if you want to be part of Sea Scouts on the national level, anyone can apply. It's great. You send in an application of your experience and what you want to do, and then you sit in front of a review board. And my first year, I applied for the quarterdeck. I didn't get the position I wanted, but I still learned a lot. And then this year, I was able to come back as bosun. So even if you don't get exactly what you're looking for, trust me, it's what you need. I've been able to do so much more in the past few years, like sailing on the Eagle, going to London World Jamboree, and just representing Sea Scouts. So that's been a little bit of my journey of how I got involved from beginning to now, and a little bit of what I do.
That's great, Greta. And I know, I'm sure you're not just doing it to put it on a resume, but it looks pretty darn good on a resume. So that's really cool too. And I want to note what you said, Abby. You said you went back and you found scouts who had completed their Eagle Scout projects at 16 or 17. Yeah, we talk about scouting alumni being those who have aged out, but I think a lot of kids, when they earn the rank of Eagle, they might think they're done, and that's really not true. There are so many things to do. One of those many things is to join Sea Scouts or venturing. Ben fact checked me and said Sea Scouts were founded in 1912. I think that's pretty right. Just a year or two after the organization itself was founded. DJ says yay for Sea Scouts. I agree. DJ, yay for Sea Scouts. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, Jim confirmed. Yes, Sea Scouts started in 1912. I thought maybe I had my scouting history right about that. So Abby, if a young person signs up for Sea Scouts, you said you had no experience with boating,
Nope.
you didn't know anything about it, so that that's a great prerequisite right there. You don't have to know what you're doing. I mean, Sea Scouts is open to anybody who is interested in joining. And Abby, also, I would just to explain, she used the term ships. She might be talking about a physical ship, but a Sea Scout ship is like a Boy Scout troop, or excuse me, Scouts BSA troop, right? That's what their units are called. Abby, can you just real quick give the folks, what's the day in the life of an average Sea Scout like? You're 19 years old, you just signed up for Sea Scouts. What do you get to do?
Okay, so before I go into what we do, I'm going to talk about our organization a little bit.
Of course.
We have the ships and then patrols, they're split into crews. And then our quarterdeck is the leadership team. So we have a bosun and then bosun's mates, which are SPLs and ASPLs. And then we have crew leaders, which are the same as patrol leaders. And then we have treasurers, specialists. The specialists, we have electives, which are kind of like merit badges. So they teach those depending on the ships. And then we have social media, communications. We have all of that for our Sea Scout ship. So the day in the life of a regular Sea Scout, for me, most ships, they meet once a week, kind of like a troop, and do a 1 weekend a month activity. And there's ships are mainly smaller, 8 to 15, instead of the troops that are several hundred. So most Sea Scouts hold a leadership position. So they'll have a meeting. One of the meetings throughout that month will be on leadership, and the other 3 will be advancement. Typically during the summer, ships will go out and they'll do, instead of having meetings where they work on advancement and memorization, they'll be on the water activities, whether that be sailing, deep sea fishing, motorboating, windsurfing. So that's what typical ships are like, but each ship can have a specialization. So there's one ship that all they do is scuba dive, and they're not focused on advancement, but they'll send out, hey, we're diving at this location this month, show up there, and that's all they do. So Sea Scouts really has a wide variety of anything, and I love it because we have access to all the BSA resources, all of the summer camps, all of the sea base, but we also have access to a little bit of that military resource there's the Coast Guard Auxiliary. We're the official youth organization of the Coast Guard Auxiliary. So we can sail on those boats. They go out on patrols and do training. We are allowed to train with them. One of my favorite programs with that was sailing on the USCG Bark Eagle. I did that last year. It's the tall ship the Academy kids train on for the summer. So we have a lot of opportunities like that, which is really, really cool. So that's a little bit of a typical day in life. You can do a little bit of everything.
Awesome. Yep. And I think what seascouts.org, I think, is the website. If anyone out there is interested, find a ship near you. Abby started her own. She's fine with that. That's great. Karis, let's talk about venturing. So both Sea Scouts and venturing programs designed for older youth. Karis just a few days away from going to college herself and a member of the National Venturing Officers Association. Karis, give us your elevator pitch on venturing. If I'm a young person and I'm not that familiar with venturing, what do I need to know?
Yeah, so like it's been stated, venturing was started in 1998, and it's always been a co-ed program, so both male and female scouts from the ages of 14 to 21 are able to join the program. It's similar to Scouting America and to Sea Scouts, where there are rank advancements and there is that outdoor aspect. But I like to say is that venturing is like a cousin to Scouting America, where we still have the scouting and the typical scout skills like camping and fire building, but we really focus on personal development and leadership skills, as all of our core values, our ALPS model, as we call it, so adventure, leadership, personal development, and service, is where we build our entire program on. So all of the rank advancements, most of what we do as a organization is rooted on that ALPS model. And so through that, you can really do a build your own adventure style of leadership and a style of creating your venturing crew. Because it is a very strong youth-led program, similar to Sea Scouts, where it's the 14 to 21, that older age range, you can really do anything with your crew. We have some crews that are just for Dungeons and Dragons, so people who start campaigns and they just do that. We have some more traditional type crews where they do the camping, they do the fire building, some more traditional scouting activities. And we have some crews that kind of do a little bit of everything. Maybe they like doing that camping, but they also can plan some super cool events as well. So that's my short little elevator pitch on venturing. I was drawn to it initially. My brother was a Cub Scout, and I knew that I loved that outdoor aspect and I wanted to get involved with that. And so when I found venturing, it was just the perfect fit. I wanted something that was going to feed me in my desire to find some outdoor, like an outlet for that, as well as grow me as a person with my personal development and like leadership skills. And I definitely don't do it for the resume, but it's given me some amazing skills and resources. And throughout my college searches, that was a very impressive feature that I was able to highlight in all of my admissions meetings and in my resume. And it's gotten me some scholarships because of that as well, and some connections in different universities and with scholarships.
Great. Yeah. What a very valuable resource for a college student right there. I didn't realize, shout out to GJ in our comics. I did not realize, DJ, you're a member of a Sea Scout ship. That's very, very cool. And I love the comment from Christine. You don't have to just choose one program, do all three: troop, ship, and crew. Excellent advice there. Yeah. I think both Karis and Abby, correct me if I'm wrong, Sea Scouts and venturing, it's not exactly like Scouts BSA. There's not merit badges and things like that, but there is advancement, right? There, and you can do service projects. There are ranks. Am I right about that? Can either of you comment on the similarities and that kind of thing?
So for Sea Scouts, there aren't specifically merit badges, but some things do overlap. For swimming, lifesaving, we have all of the requirements for those merit badges. So for a lot of kids switching over from BSA to Sea Scouts, if they've taken some aquatic merit badges, they have a head start on some of our ranks. Advancement for Sea Scouts is a bit different. I've done all three. I've done venturing, Sea Scouts, and the normal troop.
Nice.
I would definitely say Sea Scouts has the hardest advancement. And that's not to be scary, but they have 4 ranks: apprentice, ordinary, able, and quartermaster. I would compare apprentice to scout through first class. It's a lot of, hey, this is what Sea Scouts is. Know your ship, know your organization, and know your basic boating safety skills so you don't get hurt. And then everything after that is specialized. So there's a lot of terms, a lot of movements, and a lot of hands-on. So ordinary is like, hey, I know this, I know it theoretically, and able is taking the knowledge that you learned in the first 2 and being able to practice that, saying, I don't just know how to sail, I can go out and sail proficiently. And then quartermaster, that's the last rank. That one, there isn't as much to do, but it's more teaching. You have to teach a certain number of able requirements and ordinary requirements to get that, and that one's more focused on giving back and service projects. There's a service project which is similar to the Eagle project. You go through pretty much the same process. So there are a lot of similarities. There's just a lot more, because when you're working with boats, there's a lot of names that you have to know. There's a lot of sailing language is very different than terms. So you have to know all of that in order to be proficient, which makes the advancement a little bit harder. However, when you're in Sea Scouts, a lot of it is on the water focused. So a lot of it you're learning without even knowing. The first time I was in Sea Scouts and I was just doing things, it's like, okay, this is how I sail for the first time. And I went through all of it and I learned to sail. And then we had the motorboat, so I learned how to change the oil on that and just doing the regular maintenance. And then I went back and sat down with my skipper, and he's like, he checked off like 2 pages worth of requirements at one time, just because that's what you're already doing. So it's more, but it's a lot of what you're doing. And then for Sea Scouts, I know venturing might be a little bit different, but there are other awards. So we have the rank system, that's the 4 ranks, but a lot of ships, some of them don't focus on the same things. So our other 2 big things are qualified seaman and small boat handler. Small boat handlers focuses on specifically the smaller craft. So some ships, they don't have a huge sailboat or a huge motorboat, but they go out and they use their summer camps, kayaks and canoes and things. So that's more towards them. And then qualified seaman is a little bit for the bigger ones, more rules of the road and international rules, which is a little bit bigger. So we have the main ranks, and then we have those, as well as some other aquatic awards that are shared with BSA, like snorkeling. There used to be lifeguard, but mile swim and all of those. So there is a bit of overlap. So if you're starting from a troop, you definitely have a head start, but there's a lot of new, which can be very, very overwhelming. When I first looked at the manual, I said, no way. But as you get into it, you just realize that you do it along the way, and it's really fun. It's part of what
I think Abby just had the best pitch of all. You learn without even realizing you're learning, right? That's perfect.
Yeah.
Karis, real quick, venturing, similar kind of structure. There are ranks and things like that and achievements, and you do service projects and get awards. Am I right about that?
Yes, so we also have 4 ranks. We have Venturer, Discovery, Pathfinder, and Summit. Summit being that kind of that Eagle and Eagle equivalent. And through those ranks, we focus on that first one with the joining aspect. So going on your first trip, meeting with your advisor, kind of like understanding what venturing is and working with your crew. And then as you move up that, some of the requirements are being CPR trained, going through a leadership development course such as NYLT, being on summer camp staff, having certain service hours. And then once you get up to Summit, we have that that service project, kind of like an Eagle project, where the scout works on and creates a project. It's a little bit different requirements than the Eagle Scout, but in general, it's kind of the same concept. But like I said, with that build your own adventure type of model that we kind of take on as venturing, it's the requirements, whereas Sea Scouts is really focused on working on a ship or a boat. And with Scouting America, that's more of those outdoor merit badges. Venturing is really that personal development. We have requirements where it's set goals for yourself, meet with your advisor, and how did you achieve that? We set goals on personal development, development of faith, development of others. It's teaching some skills. It's becoming a more well-rounded individual, which I found very helpful as a older person going through the ranks. So I feel very prepared as a Summit Scout going into college because I have conflict resolution training. I have communications training. And with venturing, we're able to kind of take the reins with our meetings. Every crew is run differently, but something that I find unique that my crew does is the youth, we run our meeting agenda past our adults, but we meet in a completely different room. The adults meet right next door and we run our entire meeting. Then we bring the adults in and we tell them what we have accomplished with those skills that we have learned and with the skills that we're teaching others along as we go. And there are some other awards as well within the venturing program that you can earn on top of that Summit Scout rank.
Awesome. Beascout.org, a great website, not to only find a Cub Scout pack or a Scouts BSA troop near you, but also a venturing crew. And I think there's a link there that takes you to find a Sea Scout ship as well. Again, Sea Scouts venturing, been around for many years, co-ed programs designed for older kids. You don't have to have scouting experience. You don't have to have been in Scouts BSA, but you can be. A lot of folks find it to be a great way to sort of stay connected to the organization. We're going to wrap this up in just a few minutes. Our viewers are always so great. I want to point everybody to Keith's comment. He's the advisor at the University of Evansville at a venturing crew there. Very, very cool. Keith is inviting folks to reach out to him for more information. Thank you, Christine, for your comment about the Venturing Ranger Award. Very, very cool. Logan seems to be a fan of Karis. Logan says hi to Karis. Thank you very much, Logan. Appreciate your comment. Before we let everybody go, Lana, real quick, when we talk about registration, anything else we need to let the folks know? We talked about Sea Scout chips and venturing crews, any other older youth programs, or any aspects of registration that we want to let the folks know about before we let you go?
Yeah. So, again, always keep your eye on the Order of the Arrow. They're doing some great things with leadership skills and promoting youth and scouts and young people that really exemplify, what scouting is about in their lives. So always keep an eye on them. The other thing, just to, the paperwork's got to come in at some point, right? So just keep in mind that, once you do turn 18, it is a little bit different paperwork and requirements than if you're 17 or younger. So nothing that's awful or horrible or that you should let bother you or scare you off. It's just, checking those boxes. But there's leaders and there's people in the councils and at the national office and everywhere to help you with that stuff. So it's not a problem. Just keep in mind it is a little different.
Yep. And you mentioned, reaching out to your local council. Trust me, if you go off to college, whether it's your hometown council or a new council, if you reach out to your local council and tell them that you're interested, they're going to help you out. They want you to be involved. So they're going to give you the resources that you need. As Lana said, when you turn 18, there's a few little hoops you got to jump through because they see a grown up, as weirdly as that is. let's finish this conversation where we started with Bradley. Bradley, just give us your final thoughts on the value of a Scouting Alumni Association and what young, we're talking mostly about what young Scouting alumni can get out of joining, and anything else you'd like the folks to know.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And the first thing I want to give a shout out for our two young ladies here. When you think about our alumni affinity groups and the alumni communities, I want to acknowledge that we have the National Organization of Sea Scout Alumni and the Venturing Alumni Network, a part of our community. So we definitely have them there. So when you all are in college or you wrap up that time and part of a youth in the organization, make sure to be a part of those alumni communities. But, my biggest shout out that I'm going to say about Scouting Alumni is Scouting Alumni is our untapped potential in the Scouting America organization. We have millions of alumni around the globe that are somehow a product of scouting and their experience with those shared memories, those shared values. No matter whether you're part of just Cub Scouts, Scouts BSA, venturing, exploring, Sea Scouts, you name them. We have these alumni around the globe, and our single most goal is to re-engage them in our program. It doesn't matter whether you're 18 headed off to college, maybe you are 21, 22, and you finish college and you're trying to figure out getting a job and you want to use that network that we have in Scouting Alumni. Maybe you're somehow starting a family and you want to get your young children involved in the scouting program and it's been a while since you were active. Or maybe you just want to volunteer your time back with the organization. Be a merit badge counselor, be a commissioner to a local unit. Get involved in a committee in a local council or your local unit. There's so many ways to be involved. And I think it all starts with just coming back to the campfire, if you will. So check out scoutingalumni.org. Let us know how we can serve you best, whether it's through one of our alumni communities, whether it's through training opportunities, a local committee and a council. We want to connect with you, and we're offering programs and events and resources and connections all year long. So we just thank you for allowing us to be a part of the program today.
That is awesome. Awesome. You guys have all done a great job. A few final shout outs before we end the show today. Diana says she was a Weeble's assistant leader back in the day. Diana, you're a Scouting alumni, right, Bradley?
Yes.
That's a Scouting alumni right there. You were affected by the program. Venturing Crew 1238 from Fullerton is checking in. They say good stuff. Hope things are going well out for you in Fulton, California. Dan mentions Exploring Posts. We could do a whole show on that. Thank you, Dan, for that comment. I appreciate that very much. There was one other comment I wanted to give a shout out to, if I can find it here real quick before we let everybody go. Dave says, great information. Very helpful. Thanks for this topic. I agree, Dave. You guys have all done an awesome job. I appreciate you all joining us on the show today. Again, when we're done here, this video does not just disappear immediately, so please continue to comment along, tag a friend, share the link, let us know what you think. Thanks again to all of you today for joining us. Appreciate that very much. Thanks to you to all watching from your homes. We appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your week. And until the next episode of Troop Talk Live, we'll see you. Bye, everybody. Thanks to you all again for joining us. Thank you, Karis and Abby and Lana and Bradley. Good to see you guys. Thank you so much.